Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. We discuss real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and business to help you retire and become financially free. Make sure you share this podcast with someone who could benefit from it and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps me out. This show will mentor you towards financial freedom. If I can do it, so can you.
Welcome to the Troy Kearns Podcast. We talk all things business, entrepreneurship, and today we're going to be talking relationships. And she has blown up on social media because of her opinions and her advice on women and relationships and what you can do to attract the right woman and what you can do to attract the right mate. And I found her advice awesome. Welcome to the podcast, Esther Sarphatie. Did I say that right?
Thank you. Yeah, it's fine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
So tell me a little bit about your story. I know you're in Greece right now, but you told me on Instagram that you actually hail from the Netherlands. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm actually half Dutch, half German. And in general, I'm in Europe. That's where my base is right now. And right now I'm in Greece. I also have a base in Greece.
Awesome. So how did you get started along your journey as somebody who gives advice to other people that are trying to improve themselves?
Well, since I was a child, I was always interested in people, how people think, how people function. So I knew when I grew up, I knew I wanted to study psychology. It was a fact. So I studied psychology, and during the studies, I was already started to give advice on, friends and people who needed advice. And I loved it so much. It's in life, it's very important that you find your passion. And in this case, it was pretty easy for me because I like to listen to people. If you have to like to listen to people. You have to be able to not take it personally. You have to be able to see people for who they are without, giving your own opinion, because it's not about me when I'm trying to help somebody else. It's about them. So, and this all turned into, giving advice for relationships. But, I'm also very much into wellness and health. I used to give, wellness tips, and I used to make a lot of personal training programs for women who wanted to do an overall weight loss program and get in better shape. Because I always say to all of my clients that they come to me for their relationship issues, but every relationship starts with you. Right. So the most important person to invest in and to work on and to be good friends with is yourself.
What do you mean by saying good friends with? I think that's very, I think I know what you mean, but I think it has to do with internal dialogue. But what are you referring to specifically?
Yeah, I'll tell you. In my experience, we are all so harsh on ourselves, right? Something goes wrong and we're like, oh no, why did you do this like that? And people, we always talk, when we talk about, let's say, negative things in our life, we always talk about the mistakes I've made and I should not have done it. And actually, we should learn to accept that when you are 18 and you decide, I don't know, to marry a girl, and not you in general, and it doesn't work out with that girl, because from 18 till 28, let's say, you still change a lot. And then at 28, you go through a divorce, let's say, and you're heartbroken and your parents are disappointed and you're disappointed in yourself. You should remember that when you were 18, the choices you made then were with the knowledge and the self-awareness that you had then. So I think that step one is self-acceptance, because when you are kinder to yourself, you have also way more resilience to accept, when things go wrong in life. Because when you are negative towards yourself and you don't even like yourself, it's hard to like yourself, It's easy to say, but most people, they don't really like themselves. They like parts of themselves, but when you really put them down and write to me on paper what you actually like about yourself, maybe 3 things pop up, and the rest, what about the rest,
That's crazy. Yeah, I think I agree with you when you say that. Esther, where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from several factors, right? But one very important part is that it comes from our parents. We all carry generational trauma in us. It's nobody's fault. It's just a thing. And the good thing actually now in the times that we live is that through the internet and through all these self-help books and people who talk about psychology or psychiatrists who openly talk on platforms like TikTok and whatever, we have so much more knowledge immediate, in our reach, that we can actually reteach ourselves to, first of all, heal from traumas. And second of all, to understand where this all comes from. So part of it is the parents, and part of it is also society in general,
Yeah.
So we always compare to others. It's like in our instinct, women compare to other women when it comes to beauty. Men compare to other men when it comes to money. And when your neighbor is like super wealthy and he drives around in 5 different cars and you don't have that, it's very easy to get jealous and then to start this negative self-talk again.
So, like, especially with social media, right? Like, because it's all out there and people are showing what they've got. Like, one thing as a parent, I would love to ask your advice. What do you think the best way to parent is in general in terms of to try to make our kids feel confident and have that internal dialogue with themselves to be, so that we can lessen the blows?
Well, first of all, I also did that with my child when he was young, when he was growing up and living with me. First of all, I also studied child psychology, so that really helped me actually with parenting. You are the example. You set the tone. So if you are a parent who you literally show your child that you don't take care of yourself, you're bored, you have the TV on 24/7 in all the rooms of the house, you don't take care of your diet, what is that child going to do? It's going to copy paste your behavior. That's literally what a child does from the age of when it's born. Actually, already when a woman is pregnant, this already starts. But until the child is 7, it's like a computer, it's programmed. So it's very hard to change that belief system later on in a child's life. So if you can, from a very early stage, set the right tone and also teach that child from the moment they can walk and talk to have responsibilities. This sounds awkward, but actually research has been done now that children who have to do chores in the house, like simple chores, like, for example, I used to take my son to the market and I would ask him to choose the oranges. And it was so cute because it took him like half an hour to choose 3 oranges. But the pride, and the feeling of, it's all about that you feel as a child that you've accomplished something, Yeah. So it's a lot of, I can talk about this subject about kids for an hour. So maybe that's not, where you want to take this conversation. But yeah, it's very important for a child to learn that the parent sets the tone. So if your house is filled with love and music and happiness, I never had a TV in the living room. That was just not a thing. We were reading books and we were playing, games and stuff. And then also when, other children come to the house, you give them little tasks to do. For example, how can you teach a child to show love? Because a parent is always showing love to the child, right? So you can tell a child, make a nice drawing for your mom or for your dad, and let's see what you would draw for them. Creativity helps also a lot with kids to teach them to, how to treat love and how to treat others who are in your immediate environment. Kids nowadays, they're pretty spoiled because they have everything, and it's a problem. It's a little bit of a problem, So we have to give them tasks. We have to be strict, but we have to be consistent in the way we give our love. That's what most parents don't do.
I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but I do have one other question. So me and my wife kind of got into this a little bit over the holidays because I grew up with very little, and my wife likes to give our kids lots of gifts. And I was like, I think that's I said, I think down the road, you might regret that by giving them too many things. And she was like, well, we kind of combine school shopping with that whole thing. And she was like, well, I feel like you're raining on my parade. And I was like, well, I wasn't raining on your parade. I just think we're giving them too much. And I kind of come from that same thing of like, I obviously resonated a lot with what you said about monkey see, monkey do. And there's some ways that I can improve there for sure. But when it comes to giving kids gift, I feel like you take a little bit of the desire to go and earn something.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But what I would do, so there's no conflict also between you and your wife, I
Yeah.
would literally analyze, like study my kids and see what do they actually do with these gifts. For example, they get 3 pairs of new shoes, right? And you're like, this is too much. They have enough shoes, whatever. And you see they never wear these shoes. They
Mm.
just sit there in the cupboard. Then you can have a talk with your wife and say, look, we gave them all this. You see what they did with it. It's like with little kids, you get all these toys because people are excited to give toys to small kids. And then they play with a spoon, and they don't even touch all these toys. And it's like, what? It's the same with your kids who are older.
The other thing that I've heard, Esther, many times before is that a lot of times people give gifts because it makes them feel good versus the actual
Yes.
person receiving the gift, right?
Yeah, of course. Everything we do in general in life is about us. It's never about the other. So maybe your wife felt that she didn't get enough toys when she was a child. So she wants to give to her children what she didn't have. Many women are like that. Or
Okay.
maybe she remembers that Christmas and her birthday were like huge events and she got all these toys and she wants to copy paste this beautiful experience and also give it to her kids. Maybe she feels that other people in your environment give all these toys, so she, in her subconscious mind, compares to others, your friends, other relatives, and she
Mm.
doesn't want to stay behind. Maybe she and your kids right now, I don't know how old your kids are.
They're 11.
Um, okay, that's when they start to get into this age that you need to pay extra attention. So maybe she feels like before they grow older, I want to still enjoy them, that they do whatever I want them to do. And so I want to bribe them. This is all in the subconscious mind, kind of, like I want them to love me more. I want to show them that I love them so much by giving them all this stuff. And that's how they will love me more. So you never know exactly what the driving force behind it is, but for sure it has to do with your wife, of course.
So, how do you have those types of conversations to have a good relationship with your wife and not be conflicted? And because I think, I always tell my wife this, I'm like, we never had any disagreements until we had children because then there's a different parenting style, right? And so, how do you, like, what would your advice to couples and people who are married and even people who have children and who are not married to have those good conversations? I feel like I'm talking to, I know I'm talking to an expert. I'm enjoying this. It's like a free therapy session.
Yeah, I love it. And children is also what I studied, for so long. And since I also have a child, it's really interesting. As soon as I started to apply what I actually, learned, it really, really changed, a lot in my life. Our children teach us a lot, and we seem to forget that as parents. We always look at what we should do, our task. We should teach them, we should show them, we. But our children also show us a lot. So if you want to avoid, let's say, a direct conflict, always see how your child reacts to what you both, let's say, are in agreement on. Like this with the gifts that happened over Christmas. It's a great example to see what happens after this gift giving. Do they appreciate it? Do they expect more? Because then you can sit down and say, look, honey, we did this last year. I don't mind at all. I understand where you're coming from. This year, can we tone it down a little bit? So you give and take. It's a balancing act,
Yeah.
and you should always look at your children. How
Yeah.
are they? What do you think goes on in their minds? What do you learn from your child? My son, for example, although he had everything, and I was also this kind of parent who I really wanted to give him, a lot because I am crazy about him, and one way to show love to anybody, is by gift giving. And I saw that he was very specific with his things. He was very careful with his things. He was really using everything in a very peculiar way. He wasn't this child who was just having stuff. So then I would literally sit down with him and I would ask him, okay, your birthday is coming up. What do you think you want to have? What do you think you need? What do you think? And we would literally like sit down together and have a talk about it. You know, your 11-year-old, are they both 11? Are they twins?
Yeah, they are twins. Yes.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
your twins, you can literally, now that they're 11, sit down with them and say, look, me and mom, we thought of this, or together with your wife, you know, this, we
Hmm.
have this as a list. What do you guys think? What do you think you need most right now? You know, because that, when you start asking questions, they become more aware of what it is they actually wish. Because when you
Yeah.
ask a child, what do you want? Oh, new this, new that, new everything. But when you
Yeah.
sit down with them and say, ah, didn't grandpa give you that for last birthday? Okay, so you don't really need that, right? Okay, let's see together. Like, then you also avoid conflict with your wife because you involve the kids.
That's amazing advice. That's great advice.
Thank you. I'm not like, I don't know everything, right? I'm just telling you what I have applied and it really worked. And I'm telling you what I've also learned and what I actually really believe works.
Mm.
I really believe it works. Try it.
I'm absolutely going to try it. I'm gonna. Part of the reason I'm asking these questions is I'm going to have my wife listen, because sometimes when you, as a husband, are talking to your wife, it's you versus them a little bit, and your opinion versus their opinion. And it's sometimes nice to have somebody who's a very neutral third party, because this is our first time ever meeting and talking, really,
Yes.
besides some chat, and just to ask somebody who's an expert in this field versus say, hey, this is my opinion. You know, my opinion is give him nothing because I grew up with nothing, and her opinion is give him everything. You know, and so somewhere in the middle we're right. Somewhere in the middle we're going to find common ground, and so that's why I wanted to ask you that. Now, in
You're a
terms of
good match. You're a good match because if you would both be all this so much, 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 maybe it wouldn't be the best thing for your kids. But since you come from the little and she comes from another side, that's where you can find your middle way much easier, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of relationships, a lot of the videos that I've seen that have gone viral for you are about you giving advice to women about how to be a certain way to their man. What do you think well, I guess what would be the most viral video you had on advice, or most common questions that you get from women about their mate and things like that?
The most viral video was actually a big surprise to me. I mean, I just say what I believe, you know?
Mm,
It's my mission to help women and men, not just women, you know? Because men also need a lot of help. It's a video that is about what a man needs most when he comes home. And what he needs most is time out to be able to switch off a bit. Because a man, according to my opinion, I'm not a man, but this is what I've studied and what I see also in the world in general. A man struggles out there to make it happen. He's all day busy with competing, not just with other men, but also with himself.
mm,
So when he comes home, he wants to be given the space to just, you know, a little bit of nothing and not to walk through the door and immediately be bombarded like we women do. We wait all day. It doesn't matter if we're at work, we still think a lot. We overthink and we're waiting like, when is he coming home? I can finally tell him this didn't happen and we should do that. And oh my God, that bill wasn't paid and the kids, this and that, because we are so emotional as women, we don't understand very often that timing is everything when it comes to a man. It's so important to talk to him when it's good for him, when he is calm, instead of talking when you want to talk. You know, we just want to spit it out all the time. So that video about when he comes home, he just wants to have a little bit of peace and quiet has like 11.3 million views, which for my videos is a lot.
that's a lot for
And
anybody.
this is on Instagram only. On TikTok, it has another, I think, 10 million views. So the questions I get the most from women are not about that. The questions I get the most from women, it's a surprise maybe to you, is what can I do to change him?
Mm.
Because he doesn't do enough for me, or he doesn't give me enough, or he doesn't pay enough, or those are the most common questions I get.
That's actually one of my questions I have written down. My question specifically is, do you think it's possible for women to truly change their partners, or is it more about helping them evolve into the best versions of themselves within the relationship?
I don't think that it's advisable to say to a woman, to any woman, yes, you can do this or that and he will change. Because I don't think you can change a man. And I don't think that should be your wish to want to change a man. I think that the best relationships are between a man and a woman when this woman is able to just see him for who he is and accept him for that. And most women can't, unfortunately. We have this inner thing that we want to control everything. We want to control the outcome of the situation. So we want to control him. We don't want him to go out Friday night with his friends and then Saturday morning not wake up on time to take my son to, what was it, football, something. You know, we are we have this is how we care. This is how women show care. It's very strange because it seems like it doesn't come from care, right? It seems so annoying, but that's actually how a woman cares for her man. When a woman stops talking, when she says nothing anymore, then she's on her way out. So, yes. So,
So that's something to be looking for if you're a man and your woman's not talking to you anymore. She's
yes,
out.
yes. I'm not saying that a woman should complain and a woman should try to control, but a woman can communicate with her man, right? But when she stops really talking to him, explaining how she feels and everything, that's not a good sign. So you cannot change a man. So better for you to accept him for who he is right now, because what you see is what you get with men. That's why it's actually easier to analyze a man than a woman, because they're not that complex, I think. And I think that it's also a very dangerous path to try and help him evolve. Because when you take this responsibility on you as a woman, like, this is my mission, I'm going to support him and he's going to become this, I don't know what, you again play with potential. And that is a dangerous thing to play with. Because maybe you see the potential in him, like he could be, I don't know what, but he must also see it himself, and not just see it. He must want to do all that, because that takes effort to become that person, that man. I think you should only be responsible for your own well-being within the relationship. You should take care of each other, but you're not responsible if, your wife, or your wife is not responsible if you, cannot make it. And especially with men, men, that's what I think. You'll tell me, you're a man. Men are survivors, men who used to be out there like really fighting fist fights and killing each other, to get ahead in life. We're so civilized nowadays. Thank God you don't need to do that anymore. But we women were never in that position. We were always the one that needed protection. And that's wonderful. I love to be a woman. I love to be protected. So I think that a man knows what his mission is. He knows it from within. A woman cannot show him that. She should only be there to support him. That's her role. She should always be there to support him, not just when it's convenient for her.
Somebody said the other day, which I thought was interesting. We were talking about men and women and women in business and stuff. And he said, well, men shake the world. And I thought that was interesting, when we talk about that, because there has been a big feminist movement. In fact, my sisters are very, very, very big, staunch advocates of women's rights and this and that and the other thing. And obviously I have a daughter and I have a son and I have a wife and I have a mother. And, I do want to see women succeed. But as you just mentioned, with a lot of the politics in the United States, they have really and this has really become very clear lately with the LA fires. They have, these women who are all lesbians, who are all overweight, who are running the fire department. And
I see it.
Yeah. And it's
I follow it.
How are you going to help these people when you're going to be gassed out of oxygen? So do you think that is just a political game and that there are specific roles for men and women to be in?
You just touched on a very dangerous topic, because I get a lot of hate often from frustrated women who are very aggressive. The thing is, why relationships have become so hard, right? This is the other question I get all the time. It's not because life is so much harder, because life was always hard. It's just our heart now. Every, new generation has a different heart. So I think we both, male and female, we have lost our identity a little bit. Women, they went through this phase for the last 60 years, about 50 to 60 years of this, setting ourselves free from men. The point was to be financially free, right? We started to work, we loved it, we started to copy paste how men live. You see also now it's very interesting that women get exactly the same diseases like men do because we live like men, right? We have all the stress a man has. So then what happened is women started to say, okay, dude, I work, you work, we have to be equal. You got to help me. I can't do this all alone. I'm working all day. I'm out there. I'm fighting like you are. Men never asked for this. Men never said oh yeah, you go out there and, be competing with me as well financially. And then when you come home, there's no food. Nobody has cooked because you think we should share all the tasks. Men are focused on everything that has to do with outside of the house. A man needs to be on the move. He needs to be out there and make his point in the world. A man is not built, this is my opinion, right? To stay at home and to do the dishes and the laundry and to feed the kids. No. Men were forced into this role of sharing is caring and we should be equal and whatever. But now there's this new kind of woman who says to me, actually, I don't like this at all anymore. I'm working like a crazy person. Yeah. He wants to share the bills. We live like brother and sister. There's no sensual side of the relationship. There's no sex. I'm sorry. It's really bad when I talk to, also couples who I support. So I think that this whole feministic movement, this is my opinion. It's not how it is maybe, but this is what I see through my work also, mostly through my work. It's not working because men now react to all this. Men are like, wait a minute, you want all that. You want to have your own money. You want to work, do your thing, be completely free, come home whenever. There's no food. We have to share all these tasks, but you don't want to pay half of the bills. So I need to pay everything and your money is your money and my money is our money. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
And then I heard this morning, I heard a video and it had so many views. It was a viral video and I got so upset. And I don't get very easily upset because, I've heard it all. There's this young woman and she says in a very aggressive way while being interviewed in a podcast, if he wants me to be a housewife, to be a maternal person, who takes care of him, then he better be that man who can support me. That's what she said, literally. She said, because I have a demanding job like he has. If he wants me to clean the kitchen and cook, I'll do it. And she was doing like this as well. I'll get up at 10 and do it. I'll clean the kitchen all day. Yeah. It was so aggressive. And this is, what girls listen to. And this is not helping for any relationship. And actually, this aggression that women express also in some of the comments that I get under my videos, like, oh, it's always about men and we always have to understand men and it's never about us. Actually, that, let's say, trying to express how empowered we are comes from a place of feeling like a victim. So there's no empowerment there at all. Yeah. You see, because when you feel empowered, you don't feel the need to be so aggressive and to make your point, When you feel power, there's no need to prove it. You are that power. But when you feel weak, you go out and scream to everybody like, you idiots, you don't get it, right?
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. We're very much on the same wavelength. You mentioned one thing.
That's why your marriage is doing well, because you're old school. You both have an identity that's clear. That's so important in any relationship. You know what your role is. Your wife knows what her role is. That's why it works. It doesn't work otherwise.
Yeah, I think relationships take work no matter what the rules are. Like, you got to constantly work at them to make sure that you appreciate your wife and that, because that, as we know, like that which is closest to us sometimes gets discarded because we just take it for granted. But you mentioned something that I always think is interesting, and I know it's a good topic to talk about, is sex. And I hear couples, they don't want to talk about sex, or I don't think it's taboo at all. So what is a healthy sexual relationship with your partner?
Yeah, there's two topics that nobody wants to talk about. It's money and sex. It's like a taboo or something. And it's very sad because in the times that we live now, I mean, shouldn't we be able to just lay it out there like it is?
Yeah.
So I think that obviously it depends from couple to couple, right? Because I've had women clients who tell me, I want more sex than he does. What are we going to do? And also the other way around, it happens. But this is my opinion, and also from what I've seen with my clients, I think if you don't connect like that, at least 2-3 times a week, which may for some people sound like a lot, but it's not, because sex is the most intimate thing a couple can do to connect, right? It's a way to communicate. It's not
Yeah.
just, to get it out of your system and to relax. The thing with women is, we women need to feel relaxed to be able to want to have sex. If a woman is super stressed, everything goes wrong on that day, she doesn't feel it. A man will feel relaxed after he has had sex, right?
A
So,
100%.
so a man needs sex to relax, and a woman needs to feel relaxed to be able to have sex. And that's where many couples lose it a little bit. Because what happens to women, because we are so not able to express what we actually feel, we might pull away when our man, wants to have sex. And we might say all these excuses, oh no, today was such a difficult day, or I can't, or leave me alone, and then what happens? The ego of the man is bruised. Not always, but when he gets disappointed by his woman like 3-4 times every month because she's like she doesn't want to do it, he gets disappointed because his ego is bruised. So a man should be able to understand that most of the time when a woman says that she doesn't want to, it's because she's not relaxed. So
So
if he can,
how do you
yeah, if
relax
he,
how do you relax your spouse?
exactly. So this is also very individual, right? Some women love like 10-minute foot massage. Other women need to be able to get whatever problem is out of their system. Like, can I just talk about it? Other women, whatever. But there are some classic things that I think always work with women. So that you put on some nice music that actually maybe songs that you are both connected to because it was the first song you fell in love with each other that you heard or whatever. Something cheesy like that. And then
Setting the
you
mood.
do what a woman would do as a man. You do something that she doesn't expect. You light some candles and you bring her in bed a glass of something to drink and some sweet to eat. A woman will be so surprised by this because that's what she would do. That's the nurturing side a woman has. When a man does that for her, it's like a treat. She
Yeah.
gets a special princess treatment, and
Yeah.
that alone can bring her in the mood. And then soft touch. A woman is we react very much with touch. It's very important for us. Women are way more touchy than men are. Men are also not brought up to be touchy all the time, right? Because you have to be tough and in control of yourself. So just a soft touch, caress her, just tell her a few words that, sound really nice because we also fall for what we hear. All that should do the job. And a man would say, oh my God, that's so much work, but it's not. It may take 20 minutes of your time to do all
Yeah.
this, but every woman appreciates it because we women are always taught we have to take care of everybody, the kids, the husband, the house, the parents, the girlfriends, ourselves. So we very often feel that to be able to give to ourselves what we need, it comes last on our list.
Yeah.
So when your man gives you a few of these nice things in the bedroom, like this music and then the candles, and you were like, what happened to you, And that's
Yeah.
always a nice way to get her in the mood.
Set in the mood. It sounds like what you hear, just setting the right tone
So
with your,
important.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Now you mentioned money before. Why do people not like to talk about money? Because I think that there's a lot of reasons that people, their relationships end, and you hear that financially is probably one of the biggest ones, right?
It is the biggest one, actually. We always
Okay.
think it's infidelity, but it's finances, unfortunately. Well, everything is bad, right? When it comes to breakup. Yeah, I think, first of all, there's a lot of shame about money, around money. We think our partner shouldn't know exactly how much money we have, because then maybe in the event of a breakup, he or she might want to take it from us, We're always very protective of our money or of what we have, what we own. I think we're not being taught also by our parents again, or by society, or by the school system, how to actually treat money. So when you fear money, for example, most people think you have to work hard to earn money. So all this is already very negative. In order to have money in life, you have to work very hard. That's the message, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So that's then not an easy topic to talk about already, because there's a lot of negativity around this money issue. Also, what does wealth mean? What does it mean when somebody is rich? We always hear women say, I want a rich man. What does it actually mean? And then I tell all my clients the same thing. Sure, you want a rich man. Amazing. You found a rich boyfriend. Doesn't mean that you're automatically rich as well, right? The money is his. It's not in your name. Unless he gives you several properties and signs them off to you, and you get it as a present, you will never be wealthy like he is. So I think the following, to give it a practical, aspect. I think both in a relationship should have their own bank accounts with their own money, and they should be able to do whatever they want to do with it. And there's no reason that your spouse or your boyfriend or your girlfriend knows exactly what's in that bank account, because at the end of the day, it's your money. Unless you want to talk about it, right? Unless you want to share everything. But there should be a joint bank account, I
Okay.
think, nowadays. And why do I say that? That's exactly the reason. We fought so hard, women, right, to be free financially. Now women have amazing jobs. Many women earn way more than men do. It's really the era of power to the women, right? So it's a little bit like hiding behind like this cover of, yeah, but you need to take care of me. It doesn't
Yeah.
work like that anymore, I think, practically seen. Young people, you can't expect the guy, with how expensive life is nowadays, to just take over all the finances. So you should sit together and make a plan. And this should happen very early on in the relationship. Like, most of the times couples have huge fights because your vision of what you want to earn is very different from what your wife thinks you should earn or you should need for your lifestyle, let's say. And the most important thing in a relationship is that you go in the same direction in life. So if you as a woman want to live a very wealthy lifestyle with, affluent, let's say, lifestyle, and you have a man who's just starting out and he's having 3 jobs and he earns 50K per year, you
Yeah.
can't expect him to suddenly take care of all these things that you want. So I think that that's where most people have issues, because they work with fantasies. They think of their own fantasy of what that ideal is, but they don't discuss it openly with their partner. Like, what are your financial goals? Where would you like to take your life? What is your ideal, let's say, lifestyle? How do you want to fill that in? It's very important. I
Yeah.
think most people, they just ignore it, kind of.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that when it comes to finances, me and my wife don't have joint bank accounts, but we have independent bank accounts, and I just tend to pay for all of the bills out of my bank account and let her do what she wants with her own money. And I don't know if we need a joint bank account because I'm already paying for everything, but I'm not,
Yeah.
we're a little bit different because I'm very financially driven, right? And I don't, and so, and I think one of those reasons is because I wanted to attract the right mate. And I've told this to other people, like as a man, in my opinion, and I would love your opinion, Esther, is I think that you're going to attract the right person if you have the confidence to go out and earn versus just some schlub who's working a job, not investing in yourself, not investing in your future. And there's so many people that they work a job, they provide for their family, they get a divorce, they have nothing, or they even stay with the same woman and or the same man, and they get down the road and all they have is a house and a car and they're done. And in this days, you can't survive on that. You can't survive on just that. You have to make investments in yourself. We teach a coaching program, and so many of the guys, when I ask them, I'm like, what did you learn? And I'm thinking they're going to be telling me about like all these real estate strategies that I taught them. And they say mindset. And I realize that I'm not just teaching guys how to invest in real estate. I'm teaching them how to change their mindset. So I was just curious
Yeah.
about your feedback with what I said.
Well, what you do is actually very, very nice, right? That's the ideal, that the man takes the lead in the relationship financially, and the woman just has her own money and she can do what she wants with it. When I spoke about this joint bank account, I mean like for young couples, like my
Oh,
clients who are like 25 to 35, many of my clients are in that age group. Those are the people of whom I would advise to have a joint bank account, because the
gotcha.
girls in that age group earn maybe even more than the guys, or at least the same. And they don't have kids, and they're very focused on their careers and, to move forward in life. So then I think it's, I always go by logic. What's the logical way? The guy, it's not fair on him to have to take care of everything, because you still want to have a future together. You want to have kids together. You want to buy a beautiful house together. So it makes sense that, let's say, the mortgage or something you share with this joint bank account. Obviously, if the guy is making more money, I mean, 1 and 1 is 2. If he's making 3 times what she's making, why would she have to pay half of the mortgage or whatever, right? Then,
Mm,
of course, he should always take the lead, because at the end of the day, the ideal role division is that the
yeah,
man takes the lead also financially in the relationship. That's also the role of the man, right? To protect and take care of his family. And the
yeah,
woman's role is to nurture the family. It's just that nowadays, because things have shifted so much the last, 20, 30, 40 years, it's sometimes it's very devastating for young men. Depression among young men is in the uprise, because young men, they feel overwhelmed with everything they need to be nowadays. They need to have all this money, a six-pack, 6 foot, blue eyes, finance.
yeah.
It's this was a funny video, but in the subconscious mind, if I were a guy, I would feel awful, because, oh my God, all these girls, what they want, it's like an endless list of expectations. So
Mm,
young men who are just, finished their studies and they have some savings, they still won't be able to provide immediately an incredible lifestyle. This might take 10 years. They have to grow into it, right?
yeah, it's tough out there for guys. I think they feel the pressure. I think a lot of guys, they want to be able to provide for their spouse, and they just don't feel like they can because of their job. And I think that, like you said, it comes from working on yourself first and becoming the best version of yourself. What is the number one problem that people come to you with in their relationships besides finances?
Infidelity.
How do you?
Or, yeah. So a lot of the times I get questions from, when it comes from infidelity, mostly women who tell me, I'm sure he's cheating. What am I going to do? They always ask me, what am I going to do? So this is a very individual thing. Again, do you have kids? How much have you invested in this relationship? How long have you been together? What kind of cheating is he doing? Is it a one-off thing? Did he come clean? Does he feel remorse? Does he want to change? It's all these questions you first have to answer before you can say anything. It's very
Right.
easy to judge. It's the easiest thing in the world. We do it every day, all day, also with ourselves. But I think that you have to look at every situation. how that situation is. And the second most asked question is this, like, what can I do to change him? Like I told you before,
Mm.
I want more from him. And the third question I get asked all the time is, how can I make him marry me? Because
Oh,
nowadays it's so easy. Men fall into relationships, right? There's hardly any man who's like on the lookout. I want a relationship. I want a serious relationship. This just happens to a man. We women are always on the lookout. Now I want a boyfriend. Now I'm ready for a husband because I'm ready for kids. And we have all these things that we fantasize about. So a man falls into a relationship, and how can I say this? It's easy nowadays to ask a girl to live together with him because you're
mm.
allowed now. Nobody's going to say anything. Even the parents are not going to say, live together, you should be married, like it was 50 years ago. So
Yeah.
this girl says yes, okay, and then they live together. And for the guy to live together with this girl, it's super convenient because he gets husband treatment, let's say, from this girl, right? Because she takes care of him, etc. Plus that it gives him time to stall, to not do the full commitment, to not fall on his
Guilty.
knee. Yes. And we women are so silly, let's put it like that, to count the years that we've been with a man. It's really like that. It's like, oh, 1 year. Okay, next step. 2 years. Oh, 3 years. Now he must be ready to drop on his knee and to ask me to marry him. But with men, it doesn't really work like that. The 1 year, the 2 year, the 3 years. A man, I think, bonds by literally making small sacrifices for that woman. If he's convenient in that house living with her and she washes his socks and she does all these nice things for him and she tells him, you're so gorgeous and you're so amazing all the time, it won't necessarily inspire him to marry her. This is the thing you mentioned in the beginning of our
Mhm.
conversation. Like, it's way more interesting for a man to have the feeling that he has to earn it. He has to earn her. He has to do something to make her his. So
Yeah.
this living together situation, it's very convenient, very easy, but it doesn't really help if a woman actually wants to get married.
So women, it seems they're driven by something completely different. I always tell, for me, I think that men are driven by their egos. Do you have any feelings about that, Esther?
Absolutely. It's all about ego with a man. It's only about the ego. I don't think, but that's also the beauty because it makes sense when you know that you understand much more about a man and you understand how incredibly sensitive his ego is. Most women, we don't get that. And we think that a man should always be the tough one and he should be able to take care of things and not lose it. But once you understand that a man's ego is very sensitive, then you will be able to treat him, differently and to see him differently. And we are very emotional, we women, extremely
Mm.
emotional. It's hard to change that. It's hard for a woman to learn to be in control of her emotions. And it's the most beautiful thing when a woman gets to that point that she actually is in control of her emotions. Because the problem with being so emotional is that we are always very reactive to what our men do. You
Mm.
see, so you say something, and then your wife might feel offended because she believes that you should know actually how she feels about these things. I'm just saying. It's
Yeah.
very
I
complicated with
understand.
women. Yeah, a man is not like that. When a man's ego is bruised, he many times won't say it. But when you know him, when you've studied him a little bit, you will understand that his ego is bruised. Because men, I don't think it's easy for a man to literally say to the wife or the girlfriend, what you just said really hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for a man to say that because he comes off as weak. And it's dangerous to say it. Because when you, as a man, say that to a woman, whoa, she starts. Your feelings are hurt. What about my feelings? Da 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 da. It becomes a whole thing. We women are very good at that.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
totally.
are like excellent at that. So that's why a man then shuts up.
Yeah. I do have a couple follow-up questions. I know we have a hard stop and you're short on time. I've
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed this, Esther.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like you are amazing. I've talked to a lot of people, and you are so articulate and so able to just put things in such an easy way to understand. Like it's no surprise that you came across my feed, and I'm so happy that you did.
Thank you. I'm so happy we talk. I'm so happy it's really my mission to get the chance to talk longer than just in these little videos, about all these subjects, because I, as much as everybody else, always want to learn to understand, because at the end of the day, when you are able to communicate better with your spouse, or when you're able to understand your man, then you are also better, right?
Yeah,
You feel
absolutely.
better. So that's really my mission. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Final note,
Yeah.
how do you have any books? You seem like you should be a
Yes.
book. Okay, good,
Yes.
because I
I
want to
just,
order one.
oh, thank you. Oh, please, and let your wife read it as well. So
100%.
right now it's an ebook, it's in a digital form. So you can find it on my Instagram page. I have the link, the direct link to the ebook. I also have it on my website. You can find it there, and you can just click on it, get it, and you can download it as a PDF. It's very simple. And I'm so proud of this first book. I read it actually again a week ago because I had an interview about the book.
Mm.
It was
Oh,
only about the
awesome.
book. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, what did I write again? No, it wasn't like that. I know what I wrote, but I just
Yeah,
wanted to refresh. Maybe there were
yeah,
details in the book
yeah.
that I wanted to mention. And I will definitely write in 2025 a second book, because I have so much to say and there's so many different subjects. So this first book is an overall book that gives help to everybody, that it has something in there for everybody. Either you are in a long-term relationship or you're looking for a relationship. And it also has one of my favorite topics, how to also treat yourself within the relationship as a woman. Because we women are always so focused on our man. A relationship to a woman is more important than anything. To a man, his work is more important than anything, because it expresses who he is and it brings money on the table. And without money, a man is a loser, right? So for
Yeah.
him, that's the most important focus. So I give a lot of advice also with real life examples in this book about how to understand a man better, how to understand what he actually needs, what he wants, how to make a man commit. How do you understand that this man is the right man for you? Also very important, because we women focus so much on the feeling of feeling safe with him, like he has enough money to provide for a family. We overlook very often, does this man actually fit us? We put that to the side because we're so focused on the end goal, the marriage. But we
Mm.
don't look at the actual relationship and the quality of the relationship. So all this book is about that. It has some very nice other things in it. I would love for you to read it and to tell me your
I mean,
opinion, actually.
I'm excited to read it. Absolutely. I'm gonna get it as soon as I get the opportunity. How do people follow you and support you, Esther?
So people follow me either on TikTok. You can find me there with my name, Sarphatie Esther, or they follow me on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on YouTube. And yeah, I just love my work. So I upload content every day. And what I also do is private coaching. My clients are mostly in the US or in the Middle East. And I love to do that job. I'm always there for my clients. I have clients who I've been working with for 1.5 years, 2 years, and they're progressing, they're in relationships, and just I love to see, positive
I
results.
might take you up on that. So, how do people like myself who are interested in that? Because I think you've got a ton of knowledge, and I would love to talk to somebody like you. I mean, you've sold me on you from the get go. And
I am
I had
always
all
here for you. Yeah, tell
I
me.
had all these questions like laid out, and I just ditched them all because we went a completely different route than what I was planning on going based on some of the content I've seen. But I definitely think that you are highly studied, highly intelligent. I've worked on myself for a long, long time,
I
and I think,
noticed. Yeah.
well, it's you want to get better, right? As a human being, you want to move towards that. So, is there a link or something like that for people to
Yes,
book a call with
on my
you?
Instagram page, there's a link to book sessions with me directly. And you can also just go to my website. I have everything there. The book is on my website. The link to the sessions is on my website if you want. And on my website, I also talk a little bit about who I am, what I do, where I come from, if you want to know a little bit more about me. But there's a direct link to book a session with me on my Instagram page. You just need to click on it. It's a link in my bio.
Perfect. What's your website name again, one more time?
Esther Sarphatie, so that's my full name, .com.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast today, spending your time.
You.
And
It was such an interesting conversation. You know, I will tell you something. You
Sure.
are extremely good at asking questions and then keeping the topic until the next question and not to go off into, I don't know what. I have this sometimes with interviews that, you know, at the end, I don't know anymore where we're going because people get distracted. You are super focused. I love that. I admire that very much.
Well, thank you. I've really tried to take a tone of being a good listener and then following up to move the conversation forward and not getting stuck on all these like off topic things. And I try to focus intently on what you're saying, not what I want to say. And
Perfect.
and I think a lot of people, they focus on what they want to say, and I'm listening.
Yes.
I'm here. You're the expert.
Yes.
I want to learn
Yeah.
everything that you know. And if I start talking about what I know, who cares? And so
I'm not an expert because I also still learn. You know, we all learn. I don't think you're ever done. You know, you're never really the expert. But I do, yeah, I study myself a lot as well. I read research every day. I just love it. So, you know, you always have to, like you say, you always have to keep working on yourself. We all do.
100%. Well, I appreciate coming on the podcast. Guys, make sure
Thank
you give
you.
Esther a 5-star review. Make sure you go get that book.
Yes.
And I would recommend, like, as somebody who's a fan of therapy, it's just trying to get better on yourself. Book a call with her. She's well worth it. I can tell you that. I've talked to a lot of people over the years. So thank you so much for coming. Peace.